everyone, this is Tamara from shelfaddiction.com, and welcome to episode 4, I Survived BEA. Today I will be sharing with you my very first BEA experience, the good and the bad. If you're a blogger, a new author, or in the publishing industry in general and haven't been to BEA and you're curious about it, this podcast episode is for you. Those of you that don't know, BEA is short for Book Expo America. To my knowledge, this is the largest industry book publishing event in the U.S. It is a yearly event that has been known for being in New York. This past year, it was actually in Chicago, and it's a professional convention. Unlike BookCon, if you've heard of that, which happens to be the day after BEA, it is more for the fangirls and boys who want to just meet celebrity authors, hang out with other bookish people, and just have a good time. BEA is mostly for adults. You may see a handful of younger bloggers, maybe some teens with their parents, but overall it's for the grown and nerdy. And I am, for one, happy to report that to be a part of that group. But before I jump in, I would love your feedback on the audio quality of today's podcast. I'm actually trying my mobile recording studio to see if I'm able to do a live feature that I like to call Books and Wine next week while I'm in Napa Valley. So if it sounds good or great or whatever or bad, let me know. I'd like to hear your feedback to see if a mobile podcast is possible at this point in time. So thanks in advance for that. So about BEA, let's start with all the things that are going on there. I have to say I went prepared. I had my schedule, I had my game plan on, and I was very excited to go. After driving 4.5 hours from the Metro Detroit area to Chicago, downtown Chicago specifically, I was pretty wiped out from the drive. But I arrived an hour before the opening of the con on Wednesday, which started at 1 p.m. So I got there just in enough time to drop my luggage, park my vehicle, and get over to the McCormick Center. So as I was mentioning, I had my schedule, I knew what I was doing, I had my game plan, and I was excited to go. So I get there, and one thing that I kind of knew what happened, but it was still kind of surprising to see, was the mobs of people everywhere. And I even have heard that it's even worse when it's in NYC, and that the Chicago version of BEA was kind of light on attendance, but for me it was still lots of people everywhere. There was pretty much a herd/mob mentality when 1 o'clock struck, and the security kind of moved out of the way for people to enter the center, and it was just like this huge mob of people moving forward and almost running to different cubes or areas to talk to different publishers. As expected, the large publishers, HarperCollins and Macmillan and Penguin Random House, and all of the big ones had the most traffic. There was a lot of variety there. You had the big ones, the small publishers. You had some self-pub, indie authors. You had lots of people with different products that were related to books and publishing and apps and ebooks, and it was just a lot going on. From that aspect, I really liked that there was so much available to see and explore. In addition to the things that were on the main show floor, there were lots of events going on concurrently. So some of them were paid events, some of them were invite only, some, most required pre-registration. So there was always something to do. And there were also some mini conferences going on the first day, at the same time, and there were some other pre-conferences going on, some awards after, and it was just a lot to do. So even with a schedule as I had, it seems impossible to get everything you want done. And for me, I found that a little disheartening because so many things overlapped, but I tried to just go with the flow, and not get too put out that I wasn't able to follow my schedule. That's one thing you've got to be able to do with going to BEA, and that is a lesson learned. It's just, while you have the best intentions to do all of these different things and hit all of these different galley drops and see all these different authors, sometimes time just does not allow. Now, as far as getting things done, so in schedules, every morning they had a daily BEA paper, which was a very cute and very helpful tool, actually. They had the authors, little articles about what authors would be on site. They had some schedules. They had some galley announcements and industry news and a lot of things every day in this pretty thick paper. So while you were waiting to get in every morning, you could sit on the floor and read the paper and incorporate something that you find in the paper into your plans, or change your plans because you see something better. So that's how I went every morning. A big line right before, it was time to open, and then everyone rushes in just like day one, except for it was a little more organized the second day, with a nice neat line. And the third day, the line in the morning was a little bit suspect. Like, there was a line, but when the doors opened, people promptly got out of that line and just kind of had that whole mob thing going again, where they just kind of made a break for it. I think maybe by the third day, everyone's a little tired, a little cranky. They just want to get in, get what they need to do done, and get out. So personally, in my opinion, I feel that the heaviest day was Thursday. Wednesday, there were a lot of people still arriving. So not everyone attended the first day, and if they did, some of them were late. Wednesday was that heavy day where, everyone was there. It was the busiest for me was Thursday. And then Friday, it was packed early on, but by the time 3, 4, 5 o'clock rolled around, it was getting kind of thin again. And at that point, it was to be noted that publishers were pretty much forcing things on people. No one wanted to haul back books to New York or whatever state they came from. So, at that point, they're dumping books and swag and everything on you on Friday. So, speaking of books and swag, let's talk a little bit about galley drops. Now, what galley drops are advanced readers' copies of books and audiobooks and other things of that nature. And usually they have a schedule. Like the big publishers had a schedule published that they had on a sheet of paper. Some of it was online beforehand, some of it was not. And for the headlining authors, the popular ones, you wanted to get in line 20 to 30 minutes ahead of time to get the galley or the signed copy. So those schedules included, like I said, galley drops where you just kind of walk by the desk and a publicist or someone there will hand you a book. And they also had author signings in booth where you would also have to line up for that as well. The downside to that is that the lines were atrocious. They were so ridiculous for some of these authors to the point where you kind of just want to say, do I really want that book? Do I really want that signature? It makes you realize really fast what a priority is when you see these crazy lines. I do wish there was another way that they could have done that other than just, putting people in these zigzag lines, especially the galley drops. I feel like some publishers had it down and others didn't. Some people had like a rule that they stuck to about line forming and other things, and some didn't. So it was really inconsistent as far as that goes. But when it comes to getting galleys and things like that, that is where networking really helps you. If there's a book that you really, really want, hopefully there's someone in line that you met that, you guys got along and you connected in another line maybe, and they look out for you and grab a book for you. That happened for me, and I really was lucky. And for example, sometimes they don't even announce the galleys. So there was one book specifically that I wanted. And I knew it was going to be there because they had the huge, advertisement hanging in the hallway for this book. I'm not going to mention the book or the publisher or anything. So I really wanted it. It wasn't on any galley list. I didn't know when it was happening, but I'm standing in a line. And another blogger that I spoke to earlier came over to me and said, drop everything, get out of this line and go to XYZ booth right now. And I did that. And I was so happy because they were giving away bags with this book and a few others that was not advertised. It was not listed anywhere. And I really lucked out. And I love that. And that is another reason why I am all for talking to everyone around you, having a blast while doing it, making the best out of standing in the lines. Those are things that I took away from BEA that really made it easier to digest. You know what I mean? So, networking is the best. That's all I got to say about that. Now, as far as like different, networking opportunities, like I said, they had like author teas and breakfast and other panels and just other opportunities for you to gather with other readers or bloggers or authors or, whatever your role is in the publishing industry. Personally, I was able to take advantage of an event that I think they were called reading group guides. Yes, they had a a speed dating of sorts that publishers were the speed daters. So they had, a table of 10 to 12, sometimes 14 book reading professionals, whether it's, you're a leader of a large book club, a national book club, or if you're a blogger like myself, or if you're in charge of reading, reading selections for a library or whatever. The publishers were there to pitch their books to us. And that was so much fun to hear a summarized pitch for dozens of books in an hour and a half to 2 hour period. That was very memorable. And I had a great time talking to other people at the table, picking up some new books, learning about some new authors that I hadn't. It was just a great opportunity. So if you get a chance to do any of these other additional little events that are going on during BEA, I definitely recommend that you do it. Now, as far as author signings are concerned, I mentioned earlier that they did have a lot of in-booth author signings. And those are kind of, first come, first serve and get a ticket, right? Or some of the publishers, you had to come early in the morning and get a ticket that morning. Or you had to come at a designated time that may not be in the morning and be one of the first to get a ticket for the signing later. Or you just come and get a ticket at the time of the signing 20 to 30 minutes beforehand. So there was a lot of variables going on with the signings. To top that off, in addition to the in-booth signings, they had an autographing area. And these are where the droves lined up for the very popular authors. If you can imagine a bestsellers list, the people that ring out, you just recognize their names right away. Those are the authors in the autographing area. Some of them were ticketed, some were not. As far as the ticketed authors, if you had purchased something called an Avid Reader's Pass, that is what I did, and I was glad that I did. It is $105, and I believe that goes to, kind of covering the cost of the books you receive at BEA. And I think it's just for charity. I think that's right. Excuse me if I'm wrong. I don't know for sure. But with that, you got 8 tickets, I think it was, and you got 1 skip the line pass. And so you could choose 2 or 3 per day, totaling 8. And then you would take your ticket and you would already be able to go over and get a signature. So if you had a ticket, you were guaranteed a book and you were guaranteed a signature. Now, beyond the Avid Reader's Pass, sometimes the authors would have additional tickets available in the morning at BEA. And some of the more popular authors only had literally 2 or 3 or 4, less than 5 extra tickets for people to get that day. So that was one thing that I did, and I definitely recommend it for anyone that, has some big popular authors on their radar. The only downside to that is you don't know who is going to be on that ticketed list until a few weeks before. And that is kind of unfortunate. So you could be paying $105 and seriously have like 4 authors that even you recognize. Or you could get there and, get the list a couple weeks before, and it could be 8 authors that you want, and it could be a total score. For me, I fell somewhere in the middle. I think I actually reserved 7 tickets. I didn't even reserve the 8th ticket because it wasn't someone that I wanted beyond the 7th. And of those 7 tickets, I actually used 5. The other 2, the timing, the stars didn't align and I couldn't get to them. But I did use the skip line, and I did that very strategically. I knew on one morning I had a lot going on, and this author that I wanted, I knew she would have a huge line, and I was right. So I specifically waited until her signing, used the skip the line pass, and then I got my signing, got my photo, and went on my merry way. So that was a great thing that really saved me a lot of time, and I recommend it for everyone. Definitely do it. If you have the extra money, get the Avid Reader's Pass when you sign up. So yeah, we talked a little bit about the signings. We talked a little bit about the events. We talked a little bit about galley drops and schedules. The last thing I kind of want to cover was networking. And networking is so important, you guys. Like, if you get nothing else from that experience, if you're not into bringing home books and reading advanced readers' copies and reviewing things or the events, you have got to network. I personally made quite a few connections that I find are going to be very useful. I think I found other bloggers that are like-minded that I really got along with, which is a fabulous thing. And I also made some connections with some publicists and a couple of different publishers and authors and all kinds of things. So, I even lined up a few guests for this podcast show. So we'll have some fun, exciting things to talk about as a result of me meeting different people at BEA. So that is another reason why to go. And you know what? And that was the best. And honestly, I think it made it worth everything. So also the books. Yeah, the books are the thing. Some people have hundreds of books that they ship home or take home. I did not do that. I really wanted to be picky with what I accepted and what I wanted. I didn't want to come home with 200 plus books. I wanted to come home with books that I knew that I would read. While I did get a large amount of books, I'll go ahead and share that number. I picked up, I think, I didn't do a hard count, but if I had to add it together, I'd say 50 books. Of which I had a pretty even amount of young adult and adult fiction. I did pick up 3 nonfiction titles, and you also pick up lots of swag. And for me, 50 books was pretty significant, to the point where I'm not sure when I'm going to get through all 50 books, but that was me being conservative. So just imagine the people that weren't conservative and grabbed everything and accepted everything that was offered to them. It's just outrageous to think about it. This is a fun way to load up your bookshelves, though, and, try out some new authors and try out some new genres. So definitely take that opportunity as well. If you want to try some historical fiction, but you haven't in the past, go talk to some of the publicists, go talk to some of the people handing out the books, and they will tell you about the book. They will sell you on the book standing in the aisleway, and then, you can decide if it's something you want to read or not. So that was a good thing. The books, the free books, it's always good to get free books, but in my personal opinion, it's a good thing to limit yourself. I mean, I kind of feel like it's a little greedy to just bring home several hundred books without a plan. You know, some people, if you're a librarian and you're taking them to your library, okay, fine, fabulous. If you're a bookstore and you're maybe sharing them with employees, okay, great, fabulous. Or authors or groups or anything. But I kind of feel a way about some people who are just taking books for themselves, and it's hundreds of books. It's kind of crazy. Giveaways, fabulous. All of those different reasons why you would want to collect books are all good things. You know, giving them to charities or groups or whatever. They're all fabulous reasons to take books, but not hoarding them. You know what I mean? I guess you can call that my, little OCD about being organized. You know, I mentioned before that I'm a very organized person, and to just have hundreds of books to organize, of which, you're only going to read a quarter of that, if that, that kind of rung true for me. So I'm like, I personally believe in restraint when accepting books and swag. But, that's my little 2 cents. And now kind of to piggyback to networking after dark, sort of. So after a long day, BEA is a full day. You get up, it's 8 a.m. You go to McCormick Center or Javits Center in the future or whatever. You're there all day. Personally, I didn't get back to my hotel every night until around 6 o'clock, sometimes 6:30. And at that point, you kind of have a couple of minutes to decompress, if you want to shower, change clothes, whatever. And then you're off again to meet, other people for more networking, whether it's drinks or a publisher party or, dinner with, possible, work connections, whatever it is, you have more networking that night. So it's a full day. And by the time you actually get in the bed, depending on how, conservative you are with how late you hang out, you can be getting in the bed anywhere between 10 to 1, 2, 3 in the morning, and then getting up to be at the McCormick Center again at 8 a.m. So, it's a lot going on. It's a packed full 3 days, and I definitely think it's a good thing. You're going to get your bang for your buck no matter what, as long as you just come out of that shell. And I know a lot of us readers and intellectual people seem to be somewhat introverted, but if you can crack that shell, hand out business cards, chat up everyone you meet, it will be a more pleasant experience for you, especially. And that is my 2 cents on that. Now, as far as the bad, I don't like to talk bad about people or anyone. So I'm just going to speak about something I saw in general. Okay, in general. Understand, in general. And I know this is the far and in between, but from the blogger point of view of things, there seemed to be a little clickiness going on. And yes, in general, everyone is nice. I think everyone kind of chats with each other in general, but sometimes there seems to be groups of people that came as a group and they stay as a group, and no one can be admitted into that group. It's actually a little high school, but like I said, that's the far and in between. And generally speaking, everyone is nice and open to talking and etc. Now that's, kind of my one downside. I kind of feel that we're all there to meet new people, have new experiences, to make new connections, and to kind of be in this clique is doing yourself a disservice. And personally, I would not recommend being a part of that type of environment, because when you're stuck with this group of people and you're not willing to reach outside of those boundaries, you're going to miss out on something amazing because you're in that clique mentality. But that is all I'm going to say about that. I am not going to get onto a tirade because that is not what I intend to do. But overall, through and through, at the end of the day, BEA was worth it. Book Expo America was worth every penny spent, every minute waiting in line, every hour driving. It was all worth it, just worth it. So if you are a professional in any capacity in the publishing industry, I totally recommend that you do this next year. And next year, it will be back in NYC. I believe the dates are May 31st through June 1st, I believe. At least that's what I remember seeing in the little paper that was given. And be prepared. Start planning your trip now. If you can find a roommate, all the better. And so go. That's all I had to say. Just go. So that is it for today, you guys. Thank you so much for taking the time to listen. And before you go, be sure to hit that follow button on the Spreaker app or on the Spreaker website, because every Wednesday night at 6, some exceptions apply, there will be either a new pre-recorded upload or a live event. And I hope to see you there. So thanks again for listening, joining in, and until next time, happy reading. Bye, guys.